What up everyone, I'm Gooshy, and in this video, I'll finally be releasing my Ronin build. We'll talk about the gear that I use, the techniques, and most importantly the playstyle that you'll be using. And I think this is important, because you can have all the right gear, but if you don't know when to use what to maximize your efficiency with those weapons, then using that gear is kind of pointless. So, with that, let's get started. So I think the main job as a Ronin is to always have your res when someone goes down. So any perks that involve resolve are pretty much essential to the Ronin. And there's two ways you could kind of run this. The first is to stack up a bunch of perks that give you more resolve. There's several ways you can do this. You can go with melee resolve gain, generic resolve gain, or range resolve gain. However, people on Reddit have found that the melee and ranged resolve gain properties do not work. And this is super unfortunate because I had most of my gear rolling with melee resolve. So your best option is going for generic resolve gains or injured resolve gains. So your charm could have resolve gain and injured resolve gain, and then if you're running a gourd, you can get another property for injured resolve gain. And the second way to run a resolve build, and my preferred method, is to actually increase the amount of resolve bars that you have. As a Ronin, one of your techniques already increases your max resolve by 1, and I think this technique right here is a must for Ronin. And the second way you can increase this by 1 again is from your charm. So in total that gives you 5 bars of resolve that you can bank and save up for whenever you need it. And the reason why I think this is a little better than just stacking resolve gain perks is that building resolve is pretty easy when you use the bomb pack. So because you can store more resolve, if you do use your res while you have 5 bars of resolve, you'll still have 2 left. So you just have to fill up 1 more bar to instantly have that res up again. Of course, this does have the trade-off of not being able to use a class specific charm like Healing Spirit or Spirit Bear. But like I said before, I really do think that resolve perks are more important while using a Ronin. Before I was running Healing Spirit with like a 95% increased radius, but I found out that you're kind of forced to fight with your animal. Especially in survival when you're moving around a lot to different points, it's hard to keep your animal by your side at all times. Also, using your ult heals everyone regardless of range. And so with all this healing, you also need a way to increase your damage output because you don't have an ult that kills a bunch of enemies. So what I like to do is stack melee damage. So on my katana I have melee damage, the charm that I use also gives me melee damage, and I use the kunai because that's the only ghost weapon that also gives you melee damage. And this is the legendary that I use, the spirit kunai. So I run melee damage with that, as well as super massive with damage increase, along with the technique that also increases ghost weapon damage by 50% to make sure that I kill the enemy that I hit it with. And the main purpose of the Spirit Kunai is to reduce the cooldown of your smoke bomb. This doesn't really apply to the healing incense, because if you didn't know, you can't have 2 healing incense down at the same time. Once your cooldown resets, the previous healing incense disappears. And so with your Spirit Kunai, you should always be using it to finish off enemies. Because Smoke Bomb is so good, because it provides a lot of utility like stalling points on survival, buying time to manually res people, stunning enemies so your whole team could do free damage, the Spirit Kunai and the Smoke Bomb work hand in hand. Ideally, you want to use the Smoke Bomb at the start of fights, so that as enemies come closer, you could finish them off with the Spirit Kunai to keep reducing that cooldown on the Smoke Bomb. The properties that I have on my Smoke Bomb are stealth attack damage to get easier kills. Second is cooldown reduction on kill, which is a little bit better than generic cooldown reduction, because as long as you're getting 3 or 4 kills during that 120 second cooldown duration, you'll be shaving off more seconds off that cooldown. Finally, munitions is super important to get more ammo for your bomb pack. Your bomb pack is your best weapon. It charges your ult the fastest, does the most damage with the ghost weapon damage increase from your Spirit Kunai, as well as the technique that gives you increased 50% damage. It's good for clearing out survival points, as well as stun locking enemies. So if you're ever facing those Oni archers that really like to teleport, use a bomb pack to stun them, get a couple hits in, and then stun lock them again. For the bomb pack, the perks that I use are Blast Radius, and I think if I had to reroll this, I'd reroll it with Flash Bombs instead of the Black Powder Bomb, just so that it stuns enemies longer. The katana that I use is the Water Katana with the Water Master. This gives us the most amount of resolve gains, because resolve works by how many hits you get in, and because Surging Strikes from the Water Katana gets in the most attacks within a short amount of time, the Water Katana is the ideal choice. And so that's all the gear that I have. Next, I'll go over the general playstyle that I use. Specifically in survival, you always want to be spawn camping the enemy. So as the enemies spawn, I throw a couple of bomb packs to get some damage in. Then, when the enemies get a little closer, I'll throw down a smoke bomb to finish off the enemies that I damaged earlier, as well as getting some ammo back from the Munitions perk. As enemies get weak, always make sure to use your Spirit Kunai to finish them off and reduce the cooldown of your smoke bomb again. For the more annoying enemies like the spearmen, which are kind of hard to break their guard with the water katana, I like to throw a bomb pack to stun them and then get some damage in. Again, the Spirit Kunai is good because it goes through the enemy's guard when their health is low. And so with this build, because you're going to be having smoke bomb up more frequently, it's fairly easy to hold a point by yourself. If you think you're getting overrun, don't be afraid to spam your bomb packs and use your ult whenever your health gets low. And that's pretty much it for the build. I know there's tons of different ways that you can run the Ronin, but this is the way that I found that I like the best. With that, I hope you guys found this helpful. And as always, thanks for watching. Hope to catch you next one, and GG.